Hello, my name is Brooks. I'm here at Medical Restoration Centers today, and I'm going to show you guys how we get so much sugar into our diet. The way it really happens is from carbohydrates. Regardless of what source you get that carbohydrate from, it all gets metabolized as sugar in some way, shape, or form at some point. So what we did is we picked a few items that we have that honestly we're used to here in America. You know, we eat this stuff all the time. We have it as a snack, sometimes as a meal replacement, maybe a beverage along with it. The ratio that you guys should remember when you to take away from this video is for every 4 carbohydrates you consume, you get about 1 teaspoon of sugar that gets metabolized into your bloodstream. So that turns into a lot of sugar, and that hopefully will be an eye-opener for a lot of the people watching this video. So first we're going to look at a couple examples that we obviously know are very common. Dr. Pepper, very, very common. We know it's not very good for you. Has about 10 teaspoons of sugar. That's what we end up getting from that. About 40 carbohydrates from a Dr. Pepper. No surprise, right? It's not the most healthy thing to have. One of the surprises I really want to highlight is this Odwalla, or superfood drink, which a lot of people really like. And hey, it's got better ingredients than, let's say, a soda, absolutely. But it's got 50 carbohydrates, which means that we're still going to get about 12.5 teaspoons of sugar out of it, which is a lot of sugar, needless to say. So another good example is this Monster energy drink, which a lot of people are familiar with. They know it's bad for them. You can see this on commercials, people calling them out about how much sugar content they have. But look at the comparison of that to your Odwalla, and you can see they're about the same. So regardless of, you know, okay, it's got some other things like caffeine and what have you, your sugar intake still is at the same level between those two drinks. So don't be fooled by the labels. A couple other things here, you got some chips. This is a really good example here that I would really like to show people. That's a Snickers and that's a Cliff Bar, right? So obviously we picked the Snickers to be the worst one to have. You can see the sugar content doesn't necessarily support that. There's more carbohydrates in a Cliff Bar than there are this Snickers bar. Obviously there's different sizes, but once again, even though this has good ingredients and it's a healthy option, just understand how much you're putting in your body. Here we've got a honey bun. No surprise with a honey bun. You got about 64 carbohydrates coming from that, so about 16 teaspoons. This is a big surprise for a lot of people. 73 carbohydrates in a wrap. Obviously, people seek out wraps because they're lower in carbohydrates. That's part of the big marketing, I don't want to say scams, but schemes that a lot of food companies are using. 73 carbohydrates in that. Here's a really big surprise I want to kind of highlight for you guys. We've got a plain bagel, we've got a glazed donut, both from the same grocery store. You can see how much sugar is in there from the glazed donut and from the bagel. The bagel has twice as much sugar that you're getting from those carbohydrates than the glazed donut. So actually, if you have those two as an option, the donut is actually a better option, even though we all make fun of the guy who's eating donuts in the office versus a bagel, right? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you guys through a standard meal. I'm actually going to do 2 different days, eating 3 meals a day and a few snacks that are pretty average. We're not trying to be too extreme here. So let's start with our breakfast. With breakfast, you've got a couple pieces of toast, some eggs, and some milk, just an 8-ounce glass of milk. So eggs don't really have a significant source of carbohydrates, so this is mostly coming from the milk and toast. So that's your breakfast. That's what we've got so far for the day. So now let's go on to lunch. Obviously, we've got a fast-paced lifestyle. We can't eat enough, quick enough, so we stop at these types of places a lot. I'm not trying to single one out. They're about all the same when it comes to nutrition. So what we're taking in from this medium-sized meal right here with a quarter pounder is about 32 teaspoons of sugar. So there we go. We've hit lunch, and you can see how much sugar is already stacking up so far. So now we go to dinner. Dinner, we've got a fairly nutritious meal. We've got wild rice, some chicken, and a salad. Chicken isn't a very good source of carbohydrate either, unless it's breaded or you know, fried or something of that nature. So we're only getting 10 teaspoons. That's mostly from the salad dressing and the wild rice. So that's what we've got so far for the day. Now let's just add a couple things that realistically we're going to have throughout the day. Let's say midday you're kind of hungry, in the morning you want a superfood that we talked about, that Odwalla. So we're going to go ahead and add that. And then let's say later on during the day you just want you know, a bag of chips, you know, which is a pretty reasonable thing to have when you're snacking later. Maybe you're watching a movie, or even on the way home you just had to have a snack. And then let's just go with one dessert item. Let's just pick hot chocolate. Let's be fairly reasonable. So as you can see, we're stacking up pretty good with that meal. We don't have the same thing every single day, so we're going to show you some variety in what it's like if we supplement some different food items for the examples that we just used. So let's go ahead and start with breakfast again. We're going to start with an orange juice, pretty common orange juice brand that you'll find at pretty much any grocery store. So we got about 11¼ teaspoons from that. Let's say you have some oatmeal, right? Apples and cinnamon oatmeal, which is pretty nutritious, right? They have a lot of sugar to those. Be really careful with the flavored one. That's the apples and cinnamon version right there. Spilled a little bit of sugar, but I think we'll still get the point across. Let's see what else. Let's say we'll do a bagel for breakfast. So standard bagel you find in a grocery store. So go ahead and add that. And we'll go ahead and wrap that up for your breakfast. So obviously we're having a pretty decent one. We'll use a different cylinder for this day. So we'll call this day 2. So there you go. There's your breakfast. Let's go to lunch. We're not going to go to McDonald's again. We're instead going to use the wrap example that we saw earlier from the grocery store, which is obviously pretty high in carbohydrates. So we'll go ahead and add that. And then let's go ahead and say, we had a cranberry juice, which is a pretty nutritious one, right? It's a juice cocktail. We didn't use full. Cranberry juice itself, even if it is 100% natural, has a lot of sugar in it, so that's something to be aware of. But there you go. There's your cranberry juice. And let's just stop there, okay? So that's going to be your lunch. So we got a pretty good amount from your lunch. For dinner, we're going to do the same thing we did last time, which was 10 carbohydrates. 10 teaspoons, sorry. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually take another 10 teaspoon example. We'll just use Dr. Pepper, so I don't have to refill that again, which also has 10 teaspoons of sugar. So that represents your dinner. So we're staying with a nutritious dinner both days, so we're not getting too extreme in any way, shape, or form. So you can see there's where we are. We're getting pretty close to that second day. Once again, we're going to add some snacks. We're going to choose some different ones this time. Everybody loves Starbucks, right? So we're going to choose this vanilla drink right here. We're going to go ahead and put that in there. Pretty substantial source of carbohydrates and sugar. Let's go ahead and say you had a tea. I didn't think of this earlier, but a lot of people like tea. It's still summertime. It's hot, so we might have this out at a ball game or, whatever it is. You're outside for a picnic. You might want some tea. So that's a Snapple peach tea there. And then let's go ahead and add kind of a later night snack, something like that. We'll go ahead with the Snickers bar. So yeah, we'll stay away from the Clif bar, even though it's a little bit higher. So you can kind of get an idea of where we're at that second day. So these are 2 separate days with different. We're not talking about any supersized meals. We're not talking about gorging. We're not even talking about pizza. Some other things are really, really high in carbohydrates. It's a pretty moderate day, but it shows you how much sugar you're already taking in for that day. Now what I'm going to show you is how much you should be taking in on an average day. We're going to use My Lean Mass. That's what we use here at Medical Restoration Centers. So for me, I've got about a little over 110 pounds of lean mass for myself. I weigh about 165 pounds. So using that number, we've got a way of kind of calculating what we should be taking in. And it's really close to what the FDA or USDA would recommend our intake be. So I'm going to use one of these, and I'm going to show you the difference. I'm going to show you the difference in what we just took in versus what I should be taking in every single day in carbohydrates. This is total carbohydrate intake. So once again, this isn't an extreme difference. It's a pretty extreme difference. But we're not using an example of what a lot of people are doing as far as how much we're really eating in a different day, and we're not going to get into all that. But you can see that's a big difference. So tune in next week. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video, because next week we are going to be covering how you can actually reduce and hopefully get down to this level of what you should be taking in. So we're going to show you how to supplement some of these products in and out to keep your sugar levels low, your carbohydrate intake down to where it should be. So just to keep in mind, that's only 200 carbohydrates right there. So obviously we're taking in too much, aren't we? So yeah, that's all I've got today, and we'll see you next week. Please check out our website, medicalrestorationcenters.com.